Kiri stands there, fidgeting with her communicator, her cloak swaying softly in the light breeze of the ventilation shaft, as she tries to decide her next course of action. She has already called Kongara, and he is on his way. Next up will be getting her bearings. Her sense of direction is normally pretty good, but running away from a group of Vorkadanti at full tilt might have made it a bit harder for her to keep track of the various paths she took during the chase. Staring blankly at her comms blank screen, she tries to retrace the path she took. She remembers passing and entering a few side streets, climbing up the pipes, shouting some obscenities at her pursuers, and that's it. Curses! Kiri is beginning to realise that this won't be as easy as she had hoped. Tss. She clicks her tongue in annoyance. Why is thinking so hard right now? She closes her eyes to calm her nerves, unfortunately to no avail. Not feeling any better, she goes through her admittedly spotty knowledge of this star-forsaken station. Maybe there is something that could help her. She was still near that dump of a bar when she entered the ventilation system, meaning she is probably still in Sector 11. If she somehow manages to get to 9th, she would only have to go down 3 levels? Or was it 4? She doesn't remember. Gah, what's wrong with me? She exclaims, frustrated. She pockets her communicator and smooths the fur on top of her head, which has again started to stand up out of agitation. Most unusual for her. Considering her current state, she assumes that just going with the flow is probably her best bet. Making complicated plans is out of the question right now. She starts to walk down the dusty corridor. The soft tapping of her paws resonates quietly through the thin metallic walls, as she keeps an eye out for service hatches or entrances through which she could exit. After holding back countless sneezes and searching for exits with increasing desperation, she comes upon a small hatch on the floor. Time to finally get out of here. Oh, thank the stars. She hurries over and, slightly lifting the hatch, she peeks through it, revealing a more than 5-meter deep drop below. She quietly closes it again and starts thinking. Back home, she would definitely hurt herself by falling from a height like this, but the gravity on this station is a lot weaker than that of her home planet. And besides, she looks back down the ventilation shaft, torn. Just looking at the dust that is literally everywhere is almost enough to push her poor snout over the edge. It's not that deep of a drop. Wiping the tears out of her eyes, she carefully opens the hatch all the way and musters all of her courage to sit down on the ledge. Her legs dangle freely in the air now, making her feel quite an interesting sensation in her stomach region. She then leaps forward and grabs the opposing side of the opening with her upper arms. Getting ready to jump, she braces her lower arms against the floor. In one swift motion, she pushes herself off the ground, swings herself forward through the opening, and braces all of her arms for impact. The time during her fall feels like an eternity until finally, thud. Her upper arms touch the ground first, with her lower arms following shortly after. She struggles to take the surprisingly high force of impact, making her slam against the floor with her torso and slide forward for a bit. Ow, she whimpers, and rolls onto her right side. Slowly rising from the ground, she notices that she is not as alone as she thought. Several passers-by have stopped, looking at her with expressions of fear, concern and surprise, some of them making their species equivalent of a shocked gasp or other equivalent gestures. She stands up again, not showing the pain as a murmur spreads through the crowd. Kiri brushes off her left shoulder and looks around, nearly every single person who meets her gaze taking a cautious step back. Typical, she sighs. I am unharmed, thank you for your concern, you can go on with your days, she tells them with a hint of sarcasm. They either don't get the message or simply enjoy looking at her with that stupid expression. Star's sake. She approaches the most imposing one of the group, a huge bipedal mammalian that's easily twice as tall as her. Would you kindly get out of my way, please? She asks, in a sickeningly sweet tone. Simply staring at her, they don't move a millimeter. Are you really not hurt, little one? Where are your caretakers? They ask her, obviously overwhelmed by the situation. Oh, great. They think I'm a cub. Ugh. She frowns for a moment before looking up at the giant in front of her. Yes, I am perfectly fine and in a bit of a rush, so if you could... She answers while gesturing for them to make space. They are probably thinking about reporting this whole incident before slowly moving to the side to make space and look at her with a hard-to-read expression. Kiri leaves without a word, wanting to put this situation behind her as quick as she can. She can still make out the harsh mumbling of the crowd as she approaches the next intersection and pulls her cloak back over her head once again. It seems like going this way will lead her to a larger main pathway. Perfect. The air suddenly becomes much thicker, and a musky smell begins to fill the area. As she rounds the corner, she can see a myriad of bright multicolored lights illuminating the crowded passageway, and a single drop of water rains down on her, making her shiver instinctively. She keeps to the outside and starts searching the crowd for any kind of pursuers or strange people directly looking at her. There are a few scattered not-so-good-looking individuals, but she skillfully avoids them and keeps walking down the street. Kiri guesses that she has probably stumbled into some kind of trade district. She already passed multiple shabby stands and shops, some selling entertainment-related items, others questionable food, and a few even openly advertised drugs for sale. Bold, she notes. Not sure if the owners are being brave or just plain stupid. Distracted by the interesting signage of said locations, Kiri just barely manages to dodge an inattentive passerby at the last possible moment, feeling their leg brush against her head. Hey, watch where you're going, asshole! They stop and turn around, not seeing her at first. Only after accidentally looking down do they discover her. Big mouth for such a small person, they threaten her in broken universal, coming closer. She starts growling and hisses at them. Oh, you want to do this? They say while puffing up. Kiri suddenly notices a faint sound in the distance, shifting her head towards it. Her ears perk up onto the cloak to allow her to hear better. It sounds an awful lot like canine yipping, and she thinks she can pick up a few words of non-uni as well. This can only mean one thing. Vorkadanti. Shit, she curses quietly. How did they find her so quickly? In any case, playtime is over. Kiri backs away from the puffed-up giant in front of her and zips through the crowd, away from the canine yipping. Many people not even noticing her as she sits past them. Yeah, I thought so, the rowdy calls after her. Oh, how she would like to teach that chit a lesson about size, but now is not the time. Entering a dimly lit and messy side street, she stops and peeks around the corner. Maybe she can take a look at these Vorkadanti, see if they look similar to those from earlier. Doing her best to remain unseen, she looks out into the open street, not noticing the person approaching her from behind. When her hand suddenly grabs her shoulder, her fight or flight instinct kicks in, and she decides it's a clear fight. Her pupils contract, her claws pop out, and she growls viciously, ready to face whoever dares surprise her like that. Vorkadanti or not, she is ready. Her sudden change in demeanour seems to have taken the offender by surprise, as they cry out in shock. She turns around to see a startled Kiroan standing in front of her, taking a few steps back. I mean you no harm, they call out, arms raised slightly in a defensive pose. Reflexively, she stops her claws mid-swing. What? She blurts out. I mistook you for someone else, so... They lower their arms slowly and look at her. Don't hurt me. She can see them go from tense to relieved, only to suddenly stare at her with intense curiosity. Stars above. No way, they mutter. Can I help you? Kiri asks them, both confused and a bit embarrassed as they keep looking at her like that. Oh, right, sorry about that. They chuckle heartily, their voice deep and a bit scratchy. The Kiroan steps closer and extends his clasped lower hands to her. My name is Kirzaval. Pleasure to meet you. They introduce themselves, not speaking Uni, but rather in their native tongue. She gives the stranger a once-over, still not sure what exactly he wants from her. Kiri, she briefly introduces herself in Koran, her guard still up. Kirzaval maintains eye contact, as if waiting for something, before he eventually lowers his clasped hands again and looks a bit confused. What do you want from me? She asks him, still wary and occasionally taking a glance behind her. He lets his lower arms hang down his sides again, and looks at her with a friendly expression. You do not have to worry about me, dear. I have simply heard some rumours that there is a certain Kiroan with some nasty people after them, so I decided to get off work early and go home. You know, I would rather not be mistaken for them. He briefly stops, and before I know it, I suddenly see you entering this alley and, well, acting a bit suspiciously, he tells her with a sly grin. Uh-huh. Would you perhaps know more about said Kiroan? They ask her teasingly. Well, I do know a bit more about them, she cautiously reveals. Is that so? Kirzaval's grin gets even wider. Kiri looks at him a bit more intensely, thinking about how to go on from here, noticing his graying and less pointy ears. He seems to mean her no harm, and, well, meeting another Kiroan certainly is rare. I could actually use your help, she admits abashedly. He cheers up even more after hearing this, his droopy ears perking up happily. Oh, I'd be more than glad to, but we better get to safety first. If the rumours are true, then that Kiroan wouldn't want to be caught by those guys, he tells her with a wink. Right, she nods. Luckily for you, my home is not too far from here. Follow me, follow me. He gestures her to follow after him, and, regardless of his age, swiftly makes his way down the side alley, surprisingly so. More than happy for an opportunity to take a short rest, Kiri immediately follows. During their relatively brief walk, they don't exchange many words. Kirzaval occasionally indicates for her to stop, before checking if the way forward is clear. Both of them apparently want to arrive as soon as possible, rather not wasting any time on banter until they get to safety. Not long after crossing a slightly busier main path, they both arrive at a typical low-cost rental complex. Kurzweil turns around and points towards the building. This is the place. Kiri lets her gaze wander over the plain and windowless facade of the building. Come on, let's get inside. He gestures to her eagerly, already starting to make his way inside. She enters the somewhat shabby-looking building after him, still busy keeping an eye out for possible pursuers. Inside, Kurzweil already appears to be interacting with some sort of panel next to 3 differently sized elevators. Shortly after, he gestures her that he is done with whatever it was he was just doing. A single sound plays, and the weathered metal doors of the smallest elevator open. They both enter without saying a word, and he enters a 5-digit code into the worn number pad inside. The doors close, and the lift starts going up. As they come to a halt, the doors open once again, and Kurzweil turns to face Kiri. Welcome to my little home. It might not be the fanciest you have ever seen, but make yourself comfortable. He uses all of his forearms to gesture her to enter, patiently waiting in the open door. Thanks, Kiri says as she steps into the open room. Warm, colourful lamps light up the place in multiple colours, and soft Arabic-looking furniture fills the place. Beautiful carpets with intricate patterns cover the bland floor and walls below. The strong herbal smell in this place is actually kind of pleasing to the nose, and somehow even manages to give her a sense of déjà vu. It feels like a warm, cosy tent full of colours. Closing the door behind him, Kurzweil walks around an awestruck Kiri and heads towards the kitchen area. Like I said, the place is not big, but by all means, make yourself comfortable, he tells her as he moves past her. Right, she mutters, a bit overwhelmed. She sits down on one of the seat cushions near the centre of the room and looks around in wonder. This place is amazing. Practically everything about it seems both alien but also very familiar to her. A weird feeling she can't exactly put into words. After rummaging through some cabinets, Kurzweil wanders over and kindly offers her a small, ornate pottery bowl of water. I would guess a certain someone would be quite thirsty after running from those guys for so long. She gratefully takes it and downs the whole thing in one go, earning her amused look from Kurzweil, who is currently sipping from his own bowl. Kiri sets down her bowl on the small table in the centre of the seating area, before she completely deflates and sinks into the cushy seat. Much better already, thanks. Do you need another fill? He asks her kindly. Nah, I'm good. He chuckles. Well, there is always more. Anyways, I'm sorry for scaring you like that back there. I was just surprised to see a kin and wanted to talk to you. Might have forgotten to read the room. He laughs, embarrassed. Don't worry, she assures him. He shuffles forward on his cushion. Then, please let me introduce myself properly this time. My name is Kurzweil. I greet you with kindness in heart. A bit perplexed at the interesting choice of words she has never heard before, Kiri gives him a curious look. My name is Kiri. Pleasure to meet you. Kurzweil questioningly looks at her first, but seems to catch on quickly. I take it you are not familiar with that greeting? He asks her, more intrigued than dismissive. Has she missed something? She certainly feels like that's the case, at least. Yeah, I haven't really heard that one before, she admits. So I take it you are a taken. Taken? I think so, she half asks him. He nods and gives her a sympathetic smile. Right, taken are those that were taken from our homeworld during the war, he explains. You fit the age group, so it would make sense if you were one. Kiri sits back up, her cloak all over the place after sinking into the comfy cushion before. Yep, that's me, she tells him, thinking back to years past. That also explains why you were even alive, he tells her. Huh? How come? Kurzweil gives her an interesting look. For starters, you are female, right? How did you know? She asks him, taken by surprise. You certainly have a fine set of claws, young one, he tells her with a wink. The shape of your head, your pointy ears, it is pretty obvious for anyone who knows his stuff. He curiously tilts his head, and continues with a friendly smirk. Anyways, enough about that. Just the fact that you are here alive and well is a miracle in itself, he concludes. Should have guessed that Kieran will get it right. Means at least someone can do it, Kiri adds with a brief chuckle. One would assume as much. Kurzweil smiles at her, his eyes full of wisdom. To her, his aura is one of knowledge and kindness. The first interesting person she has met in years. You just said something about me being alive is special somehow. What exactly do you mean by that? He glances at the small painting across the room depicting a couple of Caroans. His gaze becomes distant for a moment, before recollecting himself. So you do not know, he asks her, a hint of grief in his voice. Not know what? She asks him, wary about apparently not knowing something rather important. What happened during the war? Well, I know that the Vorticanti invaded our world and killed many of our kin. Most, actually. Kurzweil thinks for a moment, before continuing. What you have been told is indeed the truth, if only a part of it. What do you mean, part of it? They indeed killed many, especially the females, he tells her with a grim expression. She needs a moment to process what he had just told her. I'm sorry for bringing something like that up, she apologizes earnestly. What's done is done. Do not worry, young one. Life is about looking forward and not letting yourself get down, right? He tells her cheerily, hiding his grief very well. I guess so. Silence starts to set in. Quick on the uptake, Kurzweil changes topics. Is there anything else such a fine young lady would want to know? She thinks for a moment before remembering something. Well, could you tell me about that Gritin you used? That one? She asks, folding her lower hands and slightly extending them towards him. Certainly, it surprises me that you don't know, to be honest, but I am more than glad to share my knowledge with you. All right. He shifts in his seat, finding a more comfortable position before he starts speaking. It is a friendly greeting, originally used in situations of delight, and any other kind of great joy. In the past, it was mostly reserved for big occasions, but during the war, well, things changed. During the war, we used it pretty much every single time when we met, or left any kin. Simply being able to see each other and being alive was enough of a reason to feel joy, he explains. And what about the hands? She asks, trying to avoid a certain topic. Yes, it serves as a symbol for the bond shared by the kin in question. I see, she remarks, staring at her hands as she practices the gesture. Yes, he trails off. Now, forgive my abrupt change in topics, but... She looks away from her hands and fixes her gaze on him instead, eagerly listening. Back to your original question, what do I want from you? He reminds her, seeming a bit serious. By now, I think we both know that you are obviously the one getting chased by those good-for-nothings. What I want to do is help you escape. You? Help me escape? She exclaims, surprised. Yes, me, he calmly confirms. But how? Don't get this wrong, but you are, old. Kurzweil laughs heartily. Well, you are not wrong, young one. Not wrong at all. However, I have yet to lose my edge, he adds with a sly smile, almost inaudibly soft. I have been living in this station for the past 15 years. I know almost every corner of it. Name a place or person and I will tell you where to find them, I swear on it. She perks up at hearing that. So if you need any kind of information, ask away, though sadly information is pretty much all I can offer. How do I get to Chubasks from here? She asks him immediately, eager to get an answer. Let us see, Chubasks. He appears to be scanning his memory of the station before a sudden twinkle comes to his eyes. Aha, yes, of course, I know how to get there. I can give you some directions if you'd like me to. Certainly. Her sudden eagerness makes the old man smile again. How blessed I am to be allowed one more encounter with such an energetic one of my kin. Here, let me get it for you. He gets up from his seat and wanders over to an ornamental storage container, briefly rummaging through it. After finding what he is looking for, Kurzweil starts writing on a small scrap of material and puts it into an intricately decorated pouch. Returning to the seating area, he puts the very valuable-looking pouch down on the table and remains standing next to it. I am certain this is going to help you on your travels, taking Kiri. Are you really sure you want to give such a nice thing away? For free? She asks him. Of course. What is the point of it lying around in some container? It has served me for many years, and will continue to serve you for several more. Please accept this gift. I will take good care of it, I promise. She also gets up from her seat and takes the bag with a little curtsy. Thank you for your help. I am never going to forget your kindness. Flustered, the old man scratches his neck with his upper left hand. Bah, no need to use such words on an old fart like me. He laughs again. Anyways, let me see you off to the roof. The roof? She asks, raising an eyebrow. Where do you think those Volcadanti are going to be looking for you,